Welcome to the Flow Show. Sarah DiFelice here, and we have
Tim Glover here.
And today we have what we think is a great topic. What if the pandemic is the systems buster we've all been really asking for? Stay tuned for a great conversation. But first, an intro from Tim.
There was a.
I liked it.
It was like a sludge rock kind of an intro.
So we're trying some different technology out today because we've got an exciting intro video coming, which we're excited about creating.
Yes, we're very excited about that. Sarah, with her magic, has been able to actually cut and paste and do stuff and fantastic things, and we're very excited about what's coming down the pipe.
That's right. Now, you let us know where you're watching from, if you're watching the replay, and also let us know if you can hear us as well.
Yeah, the hear us thing I think is
That's
important.
Kind of important.
In priorities, the hear us.
Hear us is kind of important.
Very sure.
But we also want to hear from you as well. We believe that this is important, and also the brilliance of being able to have a TV show that's social media, because we can engage live, which is fun. We love your participation. And
yes.
Don't we?
Your participation enlivens us, and we love it.
We do, very much.
And we talk about it, all kinds of things after the show.
Yes, and we get messages from people who watch our show
which is very fun and exciting.
It's so fun, and we're just growing over here. And I went to see your chiropractor.
So Sarah's literally grown. She's grown 3 inches.
I'm literally growing. I feel taller.
Yes.
My body's changing. So.
Our chiropractor, Andrea Ferretti, she's out in Dundas. If you want to actually really change your life, change your body. Yeah. And she's stunning.
She's a holistic approach, which I love. And
yes,
we've been seeing her
for a number of years, and so she's been instrumental on us maintaining our health and our well-being.
Well, cheers to health and well-being.
Exactly.
Cheers. So Sarah's here. Hi, can see and hear you guys. Great. Thank you for letting us know. I was thinking of you, Sarah. It doesn't.
Oh, it shows on that one.
So if you see me looking down, I'm not ignoring you.
Yeah, she's not actually reading the newspaper. She's listening.
I'm listening, and I'm switching and get to see your comments here and all of that fun thing. So Tim, this was your idea.
This was my idea. Thank you for
lead?
That's what they call the
Passover.
handoff, the Passover. So we've been steadily moving towards getting clarity. We've been talking about this not the pandemic. We've been talking about a big break now, or a big pivot for a year, I think a year and a half prior to it, all in March, going the way of the pandemic. And we didn't know exactly what was going to happen, but we did know that something significant was going to happen. And now that we've had 6 months to actually look at what it is that's actually taking place on the planet, I was sharing with Sarah that it looks to me that there's a certain population out there, a lot of them millennials, who are looking to get us, we're the boomers, which is the legacy leaders, off the planet, which is not really in terms of a good, but there is, I think there's somebody, there was hoping that all of our generation would get the COVID.
Yeah, kick the boomers out.
Yeah, kick the boomers out so the millennials can actually, figure this whole thing out. So I say that tongue in cheek, but it's also true. Most of people my age are actually just looking at the exit sign and trying to get the heck out of the way as best they can. And that's not so true in government. In government, usually a step in from business into government and around my age. And they're trying to help figure this out. So we have a few legacy leaders and a few next-gen leaders in government and that are trying to actually bring about change. But the thing I wanted to talk about today is, what if the change that we seek is really presenting itself with this pandemic? So I'm just going to play this out. With the pandemic, we are actually being forced into social isolation. Meditation, which is a practice of actually going into isolation, is a practice that some people have been picking up prior to the pandemic, but more and more people are going to need to pick it up. They're going to need to pick it up for a couple of reasons. One, being with yourself starts to get you in touch with how we actually communicate. 85% of our communication with other people is nonverbal. You actually get social cues, whether the person's on side with you or not on side with you, when you're close to them. We now have social distancing, and it's starting up again here in downtown Toronto because they're concerned with the COVID numbers in I think in Canada and in Ontario and Quebec in particular. So this pandemic is something that's forcing us to actually look at the existing systems that allow us to make decisions, the existing systems that allow us to problem solve, the existing systems that allow us to communicate, the existing systems that allow us to lead. So if you just take those, actually you just take leadership and put all the rest underneath it. Leadership is changing dramatically in response to the environment. Now, prior to the pandemic, we had something called complexity, VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. In the United States, the Defense Department, about 10 years ago, identified that the way the world is presenting has actually moved from very simple and linear, which all our systems, all the existing legacy systems have been created based on the premise that logic is fairly simple. Decisions are fairly simple if you actually get the right information. Strategy is simple if you get the right information. Communication, if you get the right information. Everything's simple. You can predict the future with a certain degree of accuracy. And that's the premise, the foundational premise upon which business has been created. But as we know, business has actually looked at everyone, the individuals, as resources. And it's also looked at the earth as resources. So let's just go with the earth and climate change. We got some significant problems going on the earth right now. And when you look at it through the filter of linear trajections, it's just not possible for us to actually change the carbon emissions in time for us to actually not blow this thing up.
No, I was thinking of David Suzuki.
Yeah, poor David.
He's been banging on about we need to wake up to change.
Oh, yes. And yeah, imagine that, because he's also at the stage where he is about 70, I think. And he's looking at his life's work and saying, what the freaking hell? Did I make a difference? And I assure you, he did, and he has made a big difference. Because what it's done is woken us up. But business, the whole center of business is something called process. So let's just look at process and structure. If you want to sell your business right this second, the value that you're going to get on your business is a function of the process, which really is what goes on without you having to be there. So, does the phone get answered without you being there? Do the invoices go out? Do you actually have a service line without you? So business valuation values a business that doesn't need a human being in it because it's all being run by processes. Now, the processes that worked pre-pandemic are not going to work post-pandemic, in large part because we're not even going to be able to sit close together each other unless if there's more than 10 people or 20 people, and it's going to be scattered all over the place. So we have to actually reconsider what it is to first and foremost be a human being, then create systems around what it is to be a human being going to work. Whereas up to this point in time, or pre-pandemic, all the systems that were created so that we could direct behavior of human beings, contain, direct, and then motivate and reward certain kinds of behaviors that basically made the business move forward, made the legal system move forward, made government's jobs easy. So we had a system that was built on the premise of simple logic, pushing us all through this structure so that we could actually get stuff out the other end, and the 1% who owned all the businesses could make a fairly good buck, and the rest of us could make a living working that system. That system is actually now being swept off. It's not becoming relevant.
What we were talking about back a year and a half ago when we had met, we were seeing all these changes needing to occur, and now look what's here.
We were trying to figure out how the heck can we actually help all those systems change. We couldn't.
It's not up to us. They are changing,
yeah.
And it's now enabling and encouraging us to redefine who we are, and what if that redefinition of who we are actually sits right in the pocket for doing what we love and actually helps build these new systems, which again, circling back to why we focus on leadership, because ultimately we're all leaders of our own life.
Exactly.
And when those leaders who were really following their heart and doing what they love, for me, studying speaking of this holistic framework, it's, we are not separate from nature. And when we align with our true nature, our joy doing what we love actually happens to help the whole. And so for me, this is a real time of, we've been calling this tidal wave or this tsunami coming through from the objective to the subjective, circling back to the importance of meditation, is really how we find that center spot of our subjective reality, enable ourselves to stay grounded while all these systems and a lot of chaos is occurring, not just on the macro, but on the micro as well.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I teach meditation workshops years ago, 10 years ago. And I used to talk about how, everybody knows that brushing your teeth is something you do every day. And one day meditation, we will look back at meditation as the same thing and think, well, there was a period of time when we just, people thought it was only for monks, or it was only for, certain type of people. And, now we're all finding there's a lot going on inside here.
Well, there's a whole system that's actually running inside us that we have to actually learn to actually first turn on, and then be able to go and attract situations or opportunities to ourselves, be magnetic, open up our heart so that we actually emit a different frequency, a different resonance, so we can start to attract people who are like us. There's this concept, the logic of complex living systems, that is something that's just being, I think, created and discovered over the last 10, maybe 15 years. And it runs extremely contrary to the old legacy orientations to systemic thinking or systems thinking. Epigenetics is another breakthrough that actually runs entirely contrary to the science of genetics. There are all these massive breakthroughs that have been taking place in my lifetime, and have always categorized and cataloged all these significant changes, and saying, okay, so that's the change that's going to push us over the precipice. The moves from genetics to epigenetics, or the move from simple logic and leadership and strategy relative to simple logic to complex logic. None of them have been significant enough to change. The pandemic is significant enough, because we are going to move globally. Here in Canada and even the United States, you could argue it's not been that dramatic, but we have friends that are down in Panama. We have friends in the Philippines, actually associates in the Philippines and in Southeast Asia. Well, they're literally closed in, and they're not able to go outside for like a day or two. And you have to go out on Tuesdays and Fridays between this time and that time. And if you're not, you're thrown in jail, or you're fined. Like this systemic transition is, by its very nature, massively disruptive. And there are people in the tech space, actually a lot of people in the tech space, millennials in particular, and those who are doing cryptocurrency and doing decentralized finance, who have been looking to destabilize or disrupt the existing central systems. Pandemic is it. From my perspective, the pandemic is the game changer that actually, if someone didn't understand the implications of epigenetics or cryptocurrency on the economics of the world, or some little thing like that in the past, it was helpful to have that as a storyline. Now, you just look at the fact that I haven't actually seen my brother-in-law, or I haven't seen whoever that I used to sit with and sit beside. I haven't seen them for 6 months. I have to actually kind of remember what she looked like and what that was all about and how we functioned as a team. And did we have team meetings? Because we didn't really need to have team meetings then. People would just have a nod and a wink and you get stuff done. But now everyone's being forced to reflect on, what the hell is it that I used to do to get stuff done? Because everything is grinding to a halt, which leads us to the concept of oops. Owning other people's shite. If in fact you're pushed to it, and you're in your office, what we tend to do is we tend to stretch to try and figure out and get out of our body and try to sense, what was Sarah thinking? What did she say 3 months ago? What's Bill doing? How's Susie working? We literally leave our body. And as soon as we leave our body to try and connect with the people that are part of our team, we actually engage with everybody else's shite and then come back into our body, and we own it in our body. We literally go around scooping up a whole pile of not so great, dense vibrational fear, basically. Then we come back into our body and go, whoa, it's getting really busy in there. Then we are not able to get up in the morning. We can't actually work. Then we have mental health issues. We have all these challenges with our business, and we go, why is that happening? This is what's underway. This is what we were talking about pre-pandemic, we were talking about this as the big pivot, and it is playing out. We've just had to take the last half year to try and figure out like how are the mechanics actually showing up for someone who didn't anticipate that. So there's a lot of change that's going on, and it's going to be exhausting.
Yeah. How's it changed for you? We'd love to know in the comments below.
Yes, please.
How are you? What's changed for you in the positive and the negative? Like whatever you want to share. And do you meditate? Let us know. Circling back to the meditation.
Yeah, mindfulness, qigong.
Like what
like
energy practices do you do? We'd love to hear about those as well below. And or are we going to keep this? We're at 15 minutes already. Are we just going to bang on until whatever?
Well, no, yeah, the objective was with these is to actually, well, yes, we have a couple of objectives that haven't really hit the road yet. So we're
showing up. We're still showing up.
We're showing up, exactly. We had a wonderful intro video that we'd always done, couldn't get access to it. We had some other things, so we're very good at winging it.
Right. And you're back from vacation. How was your vacation?
Vacation was awesome.
It was so good.
So
the pictures are great.
Yeah, spent time. So I'm a painter, a guitarist, and a bunch of things. And so it was such a fantastic thing. We went up north. We visited my brother and his wife, and also an old friend who lent us her cottage up by Sundridge, and it's on this river that has massive rocks and a waterfall as well as rapids. And I literally just sat there, just taking in the splendor of what it is to be a human in nature for, awesome. Basically it ends up being 6 days. It was tremendous. And
I stayed and looked after your dogs.
Yeah, you stayed
in nature.
Out
you
in nature,
we have as well out in the country, and I stared at fires.
Yeah.
I had fires every morning and every night. So I had my own little vacation as well.
Yes.
Which was great.
So so you're right. We said we weren't going to actually go for a long time.
There's Erica. Hi, Erica.
Hello, Erica.
Saying yes. What are you saying yes to?
Yes, yes.
We'd love to see yes who's on here and
and whatever
else.
Whatever else. So Sarah just got introduced to a chiropractor, as we said at the beginning, of the show. So she's had some fairly significant transformational adjustments. I have to, through this whole program, we have some cue cards over here that says, "My name is Sarah," she's her, and "My name is Tim." So it's kind of like she's really got the fuzzies, which I'm very familiar with because we've been going to Andrew for some time. And you get adjusted in such a way you can hardly even remember your name.
I had quite the headache going on last night, I have to say.
But this is the transformation that needs to take place inside us, because we have to have the internal system, the internal network needs to actually be rebooted so that we can actually get access to our internal compass, our internal maps, and then start to understand our own internal navigation keys, which are unique to every one of us. But that's not been something we've been taught in the old system. But in the new system, and it'll likely go by different names, but the whole education system, in my estimation, is going to be changed. Well, it's already in the process of changing. And the whole orientation in business, and just in business, we're going to change from big business running the show to small business. Right. We're going to change from big federal, provincial governments in Canada, we'll just talk about it in Canada, to more municipal and those that are actually out in the field. And it's going to be more rural than it's going to be than downtown, say, Toronto.
It's just going to be really lovely. And I think if we all focus on what's good about
that's the pivot.
The pivot, it's like, I think we've all been wanting our world to change in these ways, and they are. And how can we step in and be part of this? And there's so many great things to look forward to. And even tech,
Yeah, tech is going to change dramatically. Tech's
going to change, and it's great to be able to lever technology. But like we had this conversation before, it's even in tech and having to keep up with our emails and our social media, and there's so many things to taking our attention that I think we're going to find that going back to the simplicity of just being human once again.
I'm smiling because we went to a storyline that said, if in fact you bought into ClickFunnels or any of the orientations that are push orientations to sales and marketing that have actually now been integrated into a digital format, you're really, really busy. And the wonderful thing with the old systems pre-tech is the old systems were to put us in a structure and a process when we were working the 9 to 5. And that's when they had us. That's when they controlled us, because they had bells and whistles and rewards and all kinds of things. Now we've moved into digital. Those bells and whistles and all those kinds of things we're attached to. They're in our phones. And those of us who are trying to use those tools, the digital tools, to actually build a business, currently we become slaves to the dings and the dill and how many people read the post, how many people responded to that advertisement. So we're actually we become slaves to digital technology. That is going to change. Humanity is going to go through the stage, and it might be a little bit bumpy. That actually is going to likely be a very bumpy. They're going to go through a phase where they start to realize, oh my God, I'm a slave to technology, and I'm a slave to the way digital technology communicates to me, 100% aligned with the things I already believe about myself, because I'm actually going to go and look at things that I want to find out that actually support my worldview. Well, digital technology, and if I said it last time, The Social Dilemma on Netflix,
Yes.
You got to watch that.
We
just
talked
to get
more
some
about
sense.
that in last week's show, but it was
It's
great.
It's just a great indicator of how much digital has actually shifted from people actually being resources to people actually being inventory, and they're mining data from us, and that's all fine. But it's got a limited shelf life, because as soon as the population really wakes up to that, they're not going to do that anymore. That is actually, we're going to see an end game, and I'm not sure exactly when that's going to happen. And what has to happen is really we have to have something else to take its place, which is going to be more human, more heart-centered orientation. We'll use tech when it actually makes sense to use tech. We'll meet face-to-face when it makes sense. And I think getting through these pandemics will actually contribute to the idea of, so what is a pandemic all about? What is it that we're actually spreading in terms of dis-ease? And typically we conclude that it's fear that actually always generates some type of dis-ease in the body, and it actually starts to make it difficult for us to maintain health, well-being, and wealth. So we're actually seeing the pandemic put that on the table as well. And even the United Nations is actually very involved in starting to recognize the new metrics and the new navigation keys for a world that wants to be more whole go forward, or has to be more whole to go forward, really, to survive.
It does. To
Well,
thrive.
I could bang on forever, right? I got a 12. Yes, we have this tendency.
Tim can bang on for. I mean, we both
This
could.
is exciting. Like, this is such an exciting point in history, and yeah, I've been prepping for this for literally my whole life, and here we are. Boof, we're here. We're finally here. The idea is to help the millennials, and then any legacy people that are actually out there who are looking for assistance as well. Absolutely, come on board. But it's going to be the millennials that are going to change the world. It's not going to be the legacy leaders. It's the millennials, and there's a lot of them, and a lot of them here are wired such that they're looking for these types of solutions. So very excited to be at this point in time and be consciously awake and have so much of the cool things that are going on that just make it so obvious that, yes, we all have to pivot. We definitely have to pivot.
We all have to pivot, and I love that. It is such a glorious time to be consciously awake.
Oh my goodness, it is. And if you want to become more conscious, go up on the Canadian Shield for a couple of days in Canada and just sit on the shield for a couple. That really wakes you up to what matters and what's important.
You know what's important for me?
What's that?
Music.
Music.
Are you gonna play an outro?
I'm gonna play an outro. Okay. Let's do yes.
Music. I'm gonna read this from Vicky while you're playing. Because this just came in. Hi, Vicky. Personally, my biggest concern is the wake of the pandemic is the lack of physical connection and, of course, the economy. The benefits that I see, the awakening of that is true, not important, and that what we actually do not need. The best part to me is to see that parents have found forced or finally allowed to contact their children, yes, for the first time in their lives.
Yes.
Really. It's changing how we
actually are being.
Our beingness.
Yes, we call it the mechanics of being.
Yes.
This is a world that has been created by the legacy leaders to actually serve business through the mechanics of doing. And we're now being forced by circumstances to start to reflect on the mechanics of being. So while I both concede that there are some ugly things that are happening, and there will be some ugly things that will happen as a result of this, because most people don't do very well with change and fear of the magnitude that we're actually going to see and go forward. What we're trying to present is there's another way of framing that, which is a stance that starts inside. And once you actually start to nurture yourself inside, not to suggest that anyone who's listening isn't nurturing themselves, but you can go deeper, 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 and you're able to actually be flow. So everything and anything that's happening doesn't really ding your bells in the same way it used to prior to actually being much, much more grounded as a function of working your own personal mechanics of being.
And what a grounding force for those in your life, family, whoever, who haven't nurtured that ability. And so just to have extra patience and compassion and forgiveness is so important as we move forward. Ta-da. Thank you for joining us. It's a lovely show. We look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week.